Hi, and welcome back to my channel for an actual sit-down video. It's been a little bit since I've sat down and filmed a video. And today we're going to talk about just the first few weeks in Africa, kind of expectations versus reality and how things have been going that way. And so I have a list to go through and we're just gonna sit here and talk about it. So if you enjoyed these types of videos or watching our adventures here in Africa, remember to subscribe and let's get into it. All right, so a hard thing about being in Africa is that you have to take malaria pills because there is a lot of malaria here. You know, it used to be in the United States, it used to be a lot of places, it's been eradicated from a lot of places, but it is still here. And so we had to get the malaria pills before we left, which was a whole thing. Bless my husband's heart. He was on the phone, on hold, constantly trying to get it all figured out because we could pay for them out of pocket. The ones my kids have to take is way more expensive than like Doxy. And so you want it to be able to go through insurance. But the problem is we needed a 6-month supply, not just a month supply. So he had to get it overridden so that they could fill it. Otherwise, it was going to be, I think total for all of our pills, if we paid out of pocket, it was gonna be $5,500, which we could have done, we didn't want to do. And so he spent so long, and then they misfilled one of them. They did mine wrong. And so then, and that was just like a few days before we left. So we're trying to figure it out and they had to go back through the process. It was a whole thing. So in the end, the pills only were $15 per bottle. So I can't even think what the math is on that right now, but it was very cheap compared to what it would have been. So $15 per person instead of $5,500 for all of us. So that was a whole thing, trying to figure that out. And then also they don't have pills or like drops or chewables or anything like that for younger kids. So my kids having to learn to swallow pills was a challenge. My oldest son can swallow pills, but the other one's not so much, and you have to start taking the pills a few days before you leave, and then you take them, at least with the malaria, that's what kind we have, you have to take it a week after you get back. Doxy, you take about a month after you get back. And you take them every single day, right? We're talking about tons and tons of pills. I showed the pill wall in one of the vlogs, and so it's a lot. And so we were at home still trying to get kids to take these. They were like spitting them out and stuff. It was a whole thing. Eventually, some of them started to figure out how to do it with different types of food. It was the hardest with the littlest. Actually, my almost 4-year-old did really good about it. He's like, sure, I can take this. And he just like pops it in his mouth. But my 2-year-old, we tried so many different things with her for a long time. And on the plane, you know, we had to take them, and trying to get her to take them, it was a challenge. And we finally found like some gummies here. They're actually pretty good. They're like lemon and pink lemonade flavor, which I didn't know until I tried them recently. I had just bought some gummies that I'm like, okay, I think I can stuff a pill in this. And so I have been stuffing it in there, and she has been getting better about it. She just knows now that that's what she has to take. But the first week with her, I was like, oh my gosh, you're gonna be the one that gets sick because we can't get you to take your pills. And it was so hard. A lot of my kids now can just swallow pills, so that's good. My 12-year-old, my 10-year-old, and my 8-year-old have to take multiple pills. So their dosage is smaller, you know, so the pills are teenier than the ones that me, my husband, and oldest son take, but they have to take more of them, right? Because it's off of weight and stuff. So it's been a whole thing. So that's something that, I don't know, I expected that to be a little difficult, but I didn't expect it to be as difficult as it has been. But I think we've gotten to a point where it's routine and it's become a little bit more normal. So another thing that's been probably more difficult than I expected is just humidity with very little AC. We run the AC units at night. And it's just in the bedrooms. So the common area we live in most of the time doesn't have AC, it's open air basically, it's outdoor living. So like the kitchen table is out there, and the kitchen itself gets extremely hot. So when I'm making meals, especially dinner, I'm usually just like dripping in sweat. And we've lived in humid climates before. I've never liked them, and for long, like extended periods of time, and I've never liked them. And so living here in the humidity, I will say maybe sometimes it feels like it's getting a little bit better, but everyone's like, oh, you'll adapt. And I'm like, I don't think so. I lived someplace with humidity for 5 years and it never got better. It was always awful. So the thing that we look forward to, at least I do, I think my husband does too, is taking showers in the evening and then coming into our air conditioned room and not moving until the next morning. Where it's like, okay, we're not sweating and it's cool and everything like that. And so that's been really nice, but it has been hard. And we knew it'd be expensive to run the ACs. Most, like, electricity here is very expensive. And so we got the bill for just our first 2 weeks because it was the end of the month. And sorry, I got a screaming child. She probably won't come in here, but she could. And it was about $350 for 2 weeks to run air conditioning for 3 rooms just at night. So total, it's gonna be close to $800 a month for us just to run the air conditioners at night, which is what they said, plan $8 a night per room you're running air conditioning, which is $24 a night for us for a whole month. Right? So it's very, very expensive. Electricity is extremely expensive here. I'm grateful to have it for the time we have, but it does make some days really, really hot and humid, and you're just like, ugh. You just wish you could go just step into an air conditioned room and cool down for a minute. Another thing that I knew, again, would be hard, like going into this, we had a lot of things people would tell us, this is expensive or this is expensive, but then you get here and you're like, oh, it like really is expensive for this and that, is food. So if you buy food just off the street or on the markets, it's cheaper, but you don't always know what's safe. So like buying meat from a market, like a local market, is probably not a good idea. There is a huge French grocery store here that has lots of different types of food. Still not everything that we're used to, but a lot of things. And it is extremely expensive for so many things. If you can buy local, like occasionally they'll have local items in the store, then they are much cheaper. But a lot of things that we're more familiar with are not local. And so it's very expensive to buy groceries, especially for a family of 8. And so that has been something, you know, most of our expenses right now are groceries and electricity for AC. And so it's not that big of a deal, but it's still like trying to manage those things and plan everything to make sure we're not going crazy with groceries, and also finding markets of where we can buy like fruits and vegetables, or there's like some flour that we can buy at a market that's cheaper. So finding safe things we can buy at the markets that's cheaper than buying at the big store. So things like that, we're figuring those things out, but it has been like getting the bills, you're just like, oh my gosh, it's very, very expensive. Something else that was tricky is my toddler not sleeping well. So she at home sleeps on the bottom bunk, which I kind of mentioned this in the tour of our apartment. She sleeps on the bottom bunk, and we adjusted her to a normal bed before we left because we knew she wouldn't have like a pack and play or anything here. And my 4-year-old sleeps on the top bunk. So bottom bunk, top bunk. And sometimes she wakes up during the night. I usually don't know that she's awake, but she'll just lay and stare and sometimes quietly talk, but she's not really disturbing anybody. Well, so we get here, and the first night we were all exhausted, so she slept fine, but then we put her with my 8-year-old. We tried to put the 2 littles with their older sisters so that someone could keep an eye on them and make sure they weren't like going crazy in the room. And she just kept waking her up, and then she got out of the room one night and came all the way to our room, which was quite a feat because it's a maze to get here and stuff. So after that, we moved rooms, like we pulled a mattress into my oldest daughter and my 4-year-old's room and put the 2 toddlers on the same bed and my older 2 girls on the same bed. And then she just kept, like, if she would just wake up a little bit, she'd wake everybody up in the room. And it was just a thing for like the first 5 days maybe we were here. And so now she sleeps in our room, and she just sleeps over in the corner on some like couch cushions. because at least we can keep an eye on her and she doesn't wake us up most of the time. And I don't know what it was. She just knew she was with her siblings and she knew she could get to them. And so she'd just jump on them and wake them up. Whereas if she woke up on her bunk bed at home, she didn't do anything. She just stayed there. And I don't know if that's because her brother was on the top and she can't climb up there or what, but she didn't go anywhere. She just stayed there. And so here it was, I think we haven't mostly figured out. It's still a pain that she's like having to sleep in our room. But I think like it's working out, and at home I'll just throw her back in her room and tell her to figure it out. And so I'm not overly worried about it. Something else that has been a little bit tricky is just me being able to leave the apartment generally. Like I go for walks with some of my kids in the evening along the beach. We've walked around the neighborhood a little bit, but trying to go to the store, any of those places is hard. We don't have a car here. It's tricky trying to get a car, bringing in cash to buy one. You can do it, but then you just have to sell it. You know, it's like a whole thing. Renting a car for a big family is very, very hard too. So they have something like Uber here called Gozum. And so we have been using that, but I don't speak French, and you need to be able to speak some sort of French to be able to interact with them. And since I don't, it makes it hard for me to go anywhere without all of us going somewhere. And so that's been a little bit tricky, kind of feeling a little trapped. You know, we can go just where we can walk close, but like the stores and some of the other things that would be fun to see or just explore are kind of far away. And since the climate's so hot and having to walk around with toddlers is hard, that it just has been more difficult than I expected. Again, we're trying to get into some sort of groove and figure things out, but that's still a difficulty. Something else that is a little bit of a struggle is going to church. It has been great that we could come here and go to church. Our church is worldwide and you can go anywhere and you're learning the same things. The curriculum is the same for every like week of the year, wherever you are. The format is very similar. So even though it's in French, like we know what's happening. This is the order of how they do things, but it's still in French. Well, and some of it is in Fong, which is the native language here. So that's everyone's first language here. And then French, if they go to school, they learn French. And so some of them are in a similar boat as us, where they're going to church in a language that maybe isn't as comfortable for them either. It's kind of tricky just with all the different languages and stuff like that. So also the hard thing about it, our church time, so our church divides everything according to where you live, and then they create congregations called wards in those areas. And so there's a church meeting that is, I think, at 9 o'clock in the same building, but then ours is at 12. And so where we live is, that's the time we go, is at 12, and it switches. I don't know if it switches here. Back in the States, you usually rotate times. There's usually 2 or 3 like congregations or wards per building. And at the new year, they rotate times. So you're kind of always just changing times. And if you don't like 9 o'clock time and you prefer to go at noon, then eventually you'll change to that. But here walking at noon is very, very hot. So we come into church looking like we just jumped into a swimming pool, which is okay sometimes, but it's also just like, man, it is so hot. But I'm grateful that we've been able to go, but it's just, again, just figuring everything out, getting used to the different climate and the culture is just a little bit tricky. And so that was something else. So another thing that's been tricky is just settling in here, which kind of goes along with just being able to go places. I think in my head, I thought we'd just come and immediately start doing stuff, like it'd take a few days and we'd start doing stuff. But really, it's a lot of sitting around and doing schoolwork and then occasionally doing stuff. When I've gone on international trips before for either like service or teaching English, I did service here in Kenya and then English in China. We had quite a bit to do. You know, we were either teaching every single day or we planned little trips. And so it was kind of a constant thing. And here I am teaching homeschool most days, but it just is like, oh, shouldn't we be doing stuff? Like, we're living here, we're supposed to go out and see stuff. So I need to adjust expectations, first of all, that that's not gonna happen every single day, but also us just trying to figure out how to go places as a whole family, We get 2 like Ubers because 4 of us can fit in each one. But my husband has to do it on the phones. Like we each have the app on our phone, but then the person calls you, and I don't speak French, so he has to talk to them. And then when they get there, he has to tell them I don't speak French and tell them where we're going, because even though they have it on the app, they still like you to tell them where you're going. And so anyway, it's like a whole thing. And so it's a little bit of a struggle. So just that whole process in my head, I felt like it would be easier. So I just need to adjust and manage expectations. Something else that I knew in advance, but obviously was really hard when we got here, is just not having a normal sized kitchen, and a kitchen that is the blazing hot. It's like the surface of the sun hot most of the time. And just not having normal things. Like the first few days, I'm like, I don't even have like a knife to use here. You know, they have some things, but like every like Airbnb that you go to, they don't always maybe have everything that you're used to using at home. And so there was some pots and pans. I did get a few more. We got a blender. I got a rice cooker because our stove's so small. I'm like, I can't cook rice and cook dinner at the same time. And so I got a rice cooker for that. I make smoothies for the kids because it's an easy like snack to do, and it's cold, you know, so it helps with the heat. So just different things like that have been an adjustment, and being like, oh, I wish I had a good knife. I don't even have a serrated knife. They don't even have one in the store. So when I'm cutting bread, I'm just using my chef's knife that we bought when we got here. Or just different like scoops for cookies or things like that. Again, some of these, like you learn to adapt and find things that work, but just things that I'm not even a gadget person when it comes to the kitchen. I am pretty basic and like to just use regular normal tools most of the time, but even those things I'm like, I don't have all these things, so that's been a little bit tricky and hard as well. Another thing is just getting ready. I kind of miss it. I'm not a person that gets ready all the time at home, and the first Sunday here I was like, okay, I'll get ready. I brought makeup knowing that I'd probably just not wear it hardly ever because it's just so hot and humid. And so I put it on that first Sunday and was like, oh, this was horrible mistake, especially so sweaty, and it's just like running into my eyes. And so after that, I've done what I did for you today. Just mascara basically and a little eyeliner, and then did my brows, and that's it. I didn't even put anything on my face, and I put in some earrings. And I've been doing my hair most days just because I need it off of my face. Like it's just so hot and sweaty that I don't want it right on my face. But just, I kind of miss not having a variety of clothes. I wear similar things. You'll see the same things over and over. I have quite a few shirts, but since we do laundry basically every other day, I end up just wearing the same things that are on top of the pile, which is fine because once they're worn out, we can just throw them away. We brought stuff that we didn't care if it got thrown away basically. But yeah, having things and just being able to feel like nice and ready would be great. At least once a week, at least Sundays at home, I would go, I like felt nice and ready. And here, here it's just like a sweaty mess every day. And so adjusting to that as well, even though again, I have done that before in China. I didn't really do my makeup the 4 months I lived there or anything like that, but it's just one of those things when it's no longer an option, you kind of miss having that luxury, even if it was only once a week. Something else that's different for us here is just having cleaners 6 days a week. They don't always clean everything. Actually, I'm filming this in the morning before they come today. It's usually between 10 and 2 they show up. And if we have something we ask them to clean, then they will do that. They usually take out the trash most days when they're here, and they're here Monday through Saturday. And if we just need any help with anything else, they will do that. But having people just in and out of my home, and right now, as I keep looking out the window, the gardener is here watering the plants, and he comes twice a week. And so it's just a little bit weird for me. That's part of like the contract, was to have them here helping with cleaning. And you know, my husband is building relationships with all of them, and we say hi to them. They don't speak English really. But knowing people are going to be like in your spaces all the time is difficult for me. I don't have cleaners at home for partially because you have to pay for it, but also because just having people in my space is difficult for me. I don't love that feeling. I know some people don't care or can just kind of let it go, but that drives me a little bonkers. So getting used to that has been hard, but something funny happened the other day. I'll tell you this story, and this video, I think I've covered most things, but so we had these birds that like to be in our terrace. We have a few different types of birds. Some have nests and they just come at night, but there's one in like an outer terrace that we have. It's kind of hard to explain. Maybe if I remember to get some B-roll, I'll put it in here, but and it was like nesting. I don't even think they had a nest, but there were some bigger birds. They liked to be up in the like eaves part of the terrace, and they were pooping everywhere. Like they just come in. It was all of a sudden they just, I don't know if they were trying to tell us to leave them alone or what, like this is their space. And so when one of our cleaners, Atanas, came in the other day, Craig, he's like, can I help you with anything today? And Craig's like, well, what about these birds over here? He's like, can you do something about these birds? And I was back here. I was like, I'm just gonna stay here because I don't want to deal with birds and flying everywhere. And so he comes up with a ladder, gets up there, and apparently he couldn't reach all the way up too, so he like stepped on one of the ledges, and Craig was like, oh, please don't like slip and break something. But he all of a sudden just like goes like this, and 3 birds, like they're big, like bigger birds, are flying around everywhere. I think 2 of them flew away, and he grabbed the 3rd one and then pinned its wings back and was trying to get his wife to grab something to like pin its wings back. I don't know what his plan was for this bird. And then all of a sudden my husband's like, yeah, its head just was going like this, and then it just collapsed. And he's like, I think it died from a panic attack. And so Atanas put it on the floor, and it didn't go anywhere. Like, he's like, is it faking it? And so then he's like, oh, it died. So he killed the bird. It was just so funny. And so the 2 other birds have been on the ledge kind of looking around, and they have flown in a few times, and then we're just like, no, no, no. And they've stayed away because they're like, oh, it's not safe. And they try it, like, is it safe now? So we'll see if they stay away, but they haven't pooped all over that area. There's a swing right there my kids like to use, and so it was just, everything was covered in poop. So anyways, that was really funny, and my girls were just sitting there watching the whole time. So good times here in Africa, in Cotonou. So anyway, that I think is basically all. If you have questions, put them down in the comments. I can do another video. I can answer more questions for people, whatever you want to know, or if there's something you're curious about, I'd like to see, let me know. And remember to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.